Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Esperanza. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm a full-time content creator, but I'm originally from the Pacific Northwest. And to be specific, I'm actually from Eastern Washington, but most of my family is from the Pacific Northwest, so that's usually what I'll say, just because that's kind of like where I grew up. My childhood I think of as the Pacific Northwest. I lived in Portland, Oregon for 5 years with my fiance, Skylar, before we moved to Nashville in January 2020. And then after 7.5 months of living in Nashville, we actually moved to Pittsburgh, where we have been living for a year. It'll be a year next month, actually. So when I was living in Nashville, I actually did this video, Cost of Living in Nashville, and that video has been one of my videos that's gotten a lot of comments, and it's grown quite a bit over the year. So I figured that that must be a video that a lot of people have found very helpful, so I thought I would do one for Pittsburgh as well. I've already done a Pittsburgh pros and cons video, so I will link that for you guys if you would like to watch it. I've also done an empty apartment tour of the apartment that we're currently living in. I did a apartment hunting video, a house hunting video, so I've got a lot of different options for videos if you guys are interested in finding out a little bit more information about moving to Pittsburgh. And that being said, I do want to mention that because I'm a full-time content creator, I do have to have interiors in my apartment that look a certain way, so I was willing to spend a little bit more there. And there are other areas as well that might kind of influence the information that I'm talking about, so please just keep that in mind, and I'll try to share like as much information as I possibly can that I think would be helpful. But keep in mind that I'm coming at this from a perspective of a full-time content creator who lives at home. So yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. I've got my notes here on my laptop that I might be referencing here and there. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about is rent, which is probably the most important thing. We actually live in a 1-bedroom apartment, but it's over 1,000 square feet, and it was renovated, not fully renovated, but updated with nice interiors. And it's actually in a house that was turned into 3 different units. So we live on the top floor, which is kind of like this loft style unit. And so because of that, we are paying $1,100 for rent. It actually just went up though, because we signed another year lease at this apartment, so it went up about $50. So now it's actually $1,150 a month. And so there's kind of like some give and take with that, because like I said, it's in a house that was turned into 3 units, so it can get a little awkward sometimes with the neighbors. And I mean, living in a complex can get awkward with neighbors too. I definitely had some things I didn't love about living in the apartment complex that we lived at in Nashville, although it did have some really nice advantages, like a pool and a fitness center and all of that good stuff. So keep that in mind. If you want more of an apartment complex feel that is going to have renovated new apartments with a fitness center and amenities like that, then you're going to be paying quite a bit more. So like a 1-bedroom in a complex with amenities like that is probably going to run you a little bit more, like $1,500 to even $1,700 in like the Strip District or a really popular area like that. I live in pretty much East Liberty, which is close to Shadyside and Point Breeze and Squirrel Hill, and a lot of those popular neighborhoods in what I guess you would call the east end of Pittsburgh. There's also the north side, the south side flats, and then there's the west side, which I think they just call it the west side, or maybe the west end. I'm not 100% sure. I know quite a bit about Pittsburgh after living here for a year, but there still are certain things that I don't know everything about. When we were looking at apartments, which if you guys would like to reference my Pittsburgh apartment hunting video, you'll kind of be able to visually see the apartments I'm talking about. But since it's a college town, they actually do have a lot of apartments that are more in like the 600 to 850 range here in the East End. So you can find apartments in that range in like Squirrel Hill, Shady Side, areas like that. But the only thing is that they're going to be a little bit more on like the not so nice side. They're in really old apartment buildings. Pittsburgh's a really old city, so a lot of the times these like affordable apartments for students just aren't super nice. And we did look at quite a few of those at first when we first were trying to move here. There's kind of like a whole story behind that, but we did look at some of those when we first moved here, and for me they wouldn't have worked personally. Since I work from home, I'm here all the time, I have to have an apartment that for me is livable, and that means updated interiors that are not so dingy, for a lack of a better word. But if you're not going to be home that much, you're like a student or something, and you just want to save money, then there are options like that. We also looked at some apartments that were a little bit more renovated, like the one that we're in, but much smaller, in the Dormont area near Mount Lebanon, and those were around $850. So you can find some renovated, nicer apartments in like the outskirts of Pittsburgh for that, in that price range. But if you do want to like live in a complex and something that's brand new, it's going to be more in the 15 to 1700 range, which is comparable to other cities. But yeah, there is a pretty wide range. Like I said, anywhere from 600 to 1700, just depending on what you're looking for. So as far as utilities, they're about the same as the other cities that we've lived in. However, we are actually saving on electrical because our apartment uses gas heating, and our range and everything also uses gas. It's like a combo of gas and electrical, but because so much of the energy that we use is through gas, our apartments actually cover most of our gas, so our electrical is actually a little bit less expensive because of that, which is nice. And our utilities are about $40 to $50 a month, just depending on the month. As far as grocery stores, we actually have a lot of options for grocery stores, which is nice. I feel like Nashville had a lot less options for grocery stores. But here in Pittsburgh, at least in the East End where I live, we actually have Aldi's, which I would consider to be one of the least expensive grocery stores. And then we have Trader Joe's. We have other options that are a little bit more expensive, like Whole Foods. Giant Eagle, which I don't shop at a ton, I think is a little bit less expensive than Whole Foods, but definitely a little bit more expensive than somewhere like Trader Joe's. There's also a Walmart in Etna, a Walmart in, I think it's Sharpsburg, and another one out by the airport. But here in the East End, we pretty much have everything that we could possibly need. So I really don't leave the East End very much, which is really nice because I have found that even small neighborhoods will have like their own little coffee shop, their own little small mini mart type grocery store, a couple restaurants, a bar, which I think is really cute. So we have so many different neighborhoods here in Pittsburgh, and all of them will have cute little businesses like that are like more local, and then chains like Trader Joe's. We also have Target on Penn Avenue in East Liberty. So there are definitely a lot of options for grocery stores. One thing that you should note, and I didn't know this before I moved here, is that you cannot buy wine or beer in stores. So like I used to buy wine in Trader Joe's or in Walmart when we were shopping, but you have to go to an entirely separate store for that, like a wine and spirits store, which is a chain, and they also have like local beer stores and things like that, which is definitely kind of annoying because I don't like to make extra trips. dining, we definitely have a lot of dining options as far as price range and affordability. And I think that goes back to the fact that it's a college town, so a lot of restaurants and coffee shops are a little bit less expensive. Of course, there's a range, like I said, like there's places that are going to be a little bit more, places that are going to be a little bit less, but there are a lot of cheaper places around the university areas. And for example, I can get a coffee for around $4.50 at a local coffee boutique, whereas in like the Portland, Seattle area, you're going to be paying more, like $5, $6, sometimes even a little bit more, depending on which area in Seattle that you're in. So I would say it's definitely affordable, and then you can definitely find higher end dining options that are going to be a little bit more expensive as well. We have quite a few restaurants that also have like vegan, vegetarian options, which is nice. Not as many places that have gluten-free options as much yet, which I'm actually gluten-free, so can be a little bit tough finding places that have options that work. But I think Pittsburgh is slowly starting to get more restaurants like that. Portland definitely had a lot more of them. I think we're just a tiny little bit behind on the restaurant coffee scene here. I know I've mentioned this in my Pittsburgh pros and cons video, and I got a lot of flack for it, but that's just my opinion based on the fact that I've also lived in Portland, I've lived in Nashville, I lived in Seattle, I kind of grew up in, so I've traveled a lot, I've been all over the world. So just in my opinion, as far as like interior aesthetics, things like that, that I really care about, because I have a background in interior design. I used to do a lot of commercial design. That's what I did before I became a full-time content creator. So design and aesthetics matter to me, and in my opinion, we're a little bit lacking on those places, but more are popping up. And I actually have a guide on my blog for unique boutiques in Pittsburgh. I also have coffee shop guides. I'm working on a restaurant guide, so I'll be linking all of those in the video for you guys, the descriptions, so you guys can check those blog posts out if you're local to Pittsburgh, thinking about moving here, or just visiting. We also have high-end shopping on Walnut Street, Penn Avenue, kind of spread out, but mainly in East Liberty and Bakery Square. So that's over here in the East End. And you can also find some higher end, not exactly higher end, but more just like bigger type chains like IKEA and Home Goods, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, stuff like that over by the airport. And a couple of them actually over in Etna, and I think even in the south side by the waterfront, although I don't go over there very often. Besides that, we have a lot of really cute independently owned stores and boutiques. Like I mentioned previously, I have a whole blog post covering those. And then closer to the universities, you'll find a lot of independently owned bookstores. Actually, I think somebody mentioned on my pros and cons video, someone who's local to Pittsburgh, that we have possibly like one of the highest number of local bookstores in a city. I'm not 100% sure on that. And then there are a lot of great options for vintage stores and thrifting. I also have a thrift guide if you guys want to check that out, which is really great for college students because they can definitely find clothes and all the things that they would need for a lot less. And then we have the Target here in East Liberty, and yeah, a couple other options like that. So I would definitely say there is quite a range in shopping options. Okay, so I wanted to quickly cover transportation because I always get questions about transportation, which is kind of funny because since I work from home, I don't drive around a lot. I'm at home quite a bit. Everything I need to get to is pretty much here in the East End, so I don't do a ton of driving unless I'm trying to go somewhere in specifically. But we do have some good options for public transportation that I'll cover really quickly. Okay, so I took notes on this for you guys. Basically, we have Healthy Ride bike share. 20 of the city's 175 stations are actually located in downtown, and rides start at $2 for 30 minutes. and you can actually get an unlimited 15-minute free bike ride with your Port Authority Connect card. As far as public transportation, like the bus, one-way fares on the light rail and buses are $2.50 with the Connect card and $2.75 with cash. Children up to age 5 ride free with a fare-paying adult. We also have the Pittsburgh inclines. There's 2 of them, the Duquesne incline and the Monongahela incline. Probably totally butchered that. And both provide easy access to and from the top of Mount Washington, which is over on the west side. Trips run approximately every 15 minutes. Round trip is $3.50 and one way is $2.50 for adults. And then we also have something called the passenger rail. The Pennsylvania and the Capital Limited have daily trips through downtown, offering connections to national destinations including Harrisburg, Philadelphia, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and New York City. Okay, so I wanted to just include that for you guys. I did the research really quickly before sitting down to do this video, so hopefully that's helpful. As far as gas, I think gas is pretty much the same as everywhere else. And then another thing to think about is the fact that we have tolls over here on the East Coast. Pittsburgh's like kind of in between the Midwest and the East Coast. So if you're heading towards like Chicago or Nashville, Ohio, anywhere on that side of Pennsylvania, there aren't tolls. But if you're going to the East Coast, then you'll have to pay for tolls. And tolls can be anywhere from just like a couple bucks to $25, depending on your destination, and that can quickly add up. So keep that in mind if you're planning on doing like road trips from Pittsburgh. But besides that, Pittsburgh's pretty centrally located. There are so many cities that you can easily road trip to, like Chicago, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and then lots of East Coast cities too. So you have options if you want to avoid tolls, and then if you don't care about tolls, there are lots of destinations to visit up the East Coast, which we have yet to do. We are planning to do probably next year. We'll see. I have a ton of travels planned for the rest of this year, so I'm kind of booked. So maybe next year we'll look into doing some more road trips from Pittsburgh. But that was definitely one of the things that we were really interested in when we thought about moving here. Okay, so the last thing I want to cover is housing. So I just want to give you guys an idea on how much the houses are here. So when we first moved to Pittsburgh, we were actually trying to buy a house, and that did not end up working out. But the house that we were looking at was about $100,000, and it was in kind of the outskirts of Pittsburgh near Kennywood. So you can find homes like that for $100,000. It actually was renovated, fairly nice inside. The location wasn't the best, I would say. It was like kind of off of a main road, and all in all, it's probably best that it didn't work out, to be honest, because now that we've lived in Pittsburgh for quite some time now, I've found other neighborhoods that I love so much more. So like I said, you can find houses for $100,000 like in the outskirts, and then for some of the neighborhoods that I'm really interested in, kind of like Shady Side, Point Breeze, areas in East End, kind of nicer neighborhoods, for something that is renovated for the most part. Maybe there's a couple things here and there that you might want to fix, but for the most part it's move-in ready. On the smaller side, decent curb appeal, but we're not talking anything like super fantastic, still would need some work. For a house like that, anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000 in those neighborhoods. And then if you want something that is actually completely renovated, tons of curb appeal, a lot bigger in those neighborhoods, would be more like $600,000. Could be a little bit less, could be a little bit more. You could definitely find something in like the $350,000 to $450,000 range. And then if you're looking for a house that does have curb appeal, that is bigger and has nicer renovated interiors, like something that wouldn't need any work at all for the most part, that would be anywhere from like 300 to 450,000 and up. And then you can also find in those neighborhoods homes that are historic, so like historic houses, large one, and even historic mansions that are renovated inside. Some of them might not be newly renovated, but some of them are still like very nice interiors inside. I've looked quite a bit, but so there is kind of a range there, but anywhere from like 600,000 to $1 million or more for homes like that. So there's definitely a very wide range of options here, but that was definitely one of the things that made us want to move here, because homes in Portland, for example, are so much more expensive. Like a home like the one I was telling you about, which was 100,000 in Kennywood, would be like 500,000 in Portland. So definitely a huge difference there, which is one of the big reasons why I moved over here, because we're trying to buy a house within the next couple years. Okay guys, so that is it for this video. I hope that I covered a decent amount of topics that you would be interested in as far as cost of living in Pittsburgh. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you guys aren't currently subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I do a lot of thrifting, home and styling videos and content like that, but I also try to share useful information in videos like this as well. And I do travel videos too, so a little bit of everything over here. Also be sure to follow me on my other socials at The Urban Darling. I am on TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, the works. And be sure to check out my blog, theurbandarling.com as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!